Okay guys, here we go. So this video is dedicated to adding and subtracting fractions, but with unlike denominators. And this is the academic lab with Lakeisha Mosley. So let's get into this one. This one is a lot more work and you have to keep straight all of your steps. So be very careful with this. All right, so here's the deal. The reason why we have to find the same common denominator for fractions is because let's look at this example that's kind of pictorial at the top. So notice that we have 1 out of 4, and then we have 3 out of 8. So the way that I like to say this to people or students in general is think about it. I mean, they're speaking 2 different languages. So I have 4 pieces here. Here I have 8 pieces. And so I'm just kind of confused on how to bring everything together. So you have to find them a same common language or a same common denominator. So I like to tell people, you know, imagine this guy speaking German and this guy is speaking Spanish. And so they cannot communicate with each other at all. So of course we have to teach them a common language. So we're going to either teach them both English or both Japanese or something, right? So that's where the common denominator comes in, and then we can combine things. So let's look at this. So now this 1/4, all right, changes into 2/8. And the reason why that happens is because I want to have both of them to have this same common multiple or common denominator at the bottom. Okay, so again, I have 4, I have 8, and I know that 4 times 2 is 8, so I multiplied by 2 to the bottom of this fraction, and what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So I multiplied by 2 down here, and I had to go and multiply by 2 to the top. So that's why that became 2/8. And then in this case, 3/8, this one already has an 8, so I just left that fraction the same. Okay, so now my final thing here is, again, my denominators are matching, and now I just have to add the numerators. So I really have 5 out of 8 pieces. Okay, so I'm going to show you the ones that I'm going to go over in this video. I'm going to do all of the odds, and then I'm going to do 14 and 16. And then again, I will post tomorrow a practice sheet of more like this one, and then just watch this video multiple times. So I'm going to do this on a separate sheet of paper and then transfer my answer. So let's look at number 1. So number 1, I have 1/2, and then I'm adding to that 1/3. Okay, so the way we have to do this is you have to know your multiplication facts. So if I'm thinking about my multiplication facts of 2 and my multiplication facts of 3, then the answer is going to be that they both have a multiple of 6. Okay, so very carefully. If I think about my 2 family, so I got 2, I add 2 for 4, I add another 2 for 6, I add another 2 for 8, and then 2 times 5 is 10. Then I go to my 3 family, 3 times 1, 3 times 2 is 6, or I add 3 for 9, add 3 more for 12, and I'm going to do another 3, so it'll be the same with 5. And as you can see, their common and lowest multiple that they have in common is 6. So what I want to do now is I want to put 6's at the bottom for both of those. I want to teach them a common language through that common denominator. And so now this step is called changing the 2 of these into equivalent fractions. So this is where they're going to speak the same language. So I have to multiply this one by 3 because I have a 2 and I want to go to a 6. So I have to times 3. And then what I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So this becomes 3/6. And remember, the cool thing is 3/6 is the same as 1/2. Okay, so they are equivalent to each other. All right, this one, I have a 3. I want to go to a 6, so I have to times 2. Do to the bottom, do to the top. So this one becomes 2/6. And so now I'm happy because my denominator is the same, and 3 plus 2 is 5. So the answer for number 1 is going to be 5/6. Okay? So we're going to come here and do 5/6. All right, so now let's move to the next one. Sorry about the dog noises. I had to kind of stop and start back again. All right, so now let's look at number 3. So for number 3, I have 1/2, and I'm adding to 1/2 3/10. So to be very clear, so we have something that has 2 total pieces. So I'm going to cut this in half, and half of it, 1 out of the 2, is happening here. And then let's say this guy, I don't know, I'm going to I guess I could make a circle, but I'll do a rectangle because I feel like a circle, my 10 slices would be kind of weird, okay? So here splitting it into 2, okay? And then I'm just going to tell myself put 5 up here, 5 up there, and then I continue here with another 5 down at the bottom. So as you can see, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces, and we have 3 of these taken out of 10. And so as you can see, it can be kind of confusing as to how much you have. So what we're going to do is find the common denominator or the common multiple that they have. So we go here and we start listing the facts for our 2. So 2 times 1, 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4, 2 times 5. Okay, that's great. And then here, 10 times 1, and then 20, 30, but there it is. I already see that 10 is their common multiple. Okay, so here is their common multiple. All right, that's their least common multiple, the number they have in common. So we can teach them the same language. So let's put a 10 here, a 10 here. All right, so now, as you can see, this one already has 3 out of 10 pieces. So this one's already in a good place with having that common language. So this is the guy who needs to change and speak a different language, right? So we want to change this 2 to a 10. So we're going to multiply by 5 to the bottom. We have to also multiply by 5 to the top. So I just want to be clear. 5 out of 10, right? 5 out of 10 would be the same as 1/2. So it's not like these fractions really change significantly. They are literally the same fraction. That's why they say these are equivalent fractions. It's just that they've transformed so that we can now have those equal pieces at the bottom. Okay, so now we have 10, and then I'll just kind of put this with the marker so everybody can see it. There's a 10, and then 5 plus 3 is 8. But we're not done because we have to reduce and simplify all of our fractions. So these are both divisible by 2. So I'm going to divide this guy by 2. I would get 4. Divide this guy also by 2 and get 5. So the final answer for number 3 is going to be 4/5. Okay, so I come here. Number 3 is 4/5. All right, let's keep moving. I'm going to go a little bit quicker now. Okay, so now let's go on to number 5. So for number 5, we have 3/8 minus 3/16. Okay. And so for this one, again, they're not speaking the same language, so we got to find their common denominator. So I know the answer is 16, okay, because 16 times 1 is 16, and then 8 times 2 is 16. But just in case, some people need to see it, 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 3 is 24, 16 times 1, and then if I did 16 times 2, I'd get 32. Okay, and if I add 16 to this, I would get 48. Okay, so again, the common multiple or common denominator needs to be 16. Okay, so now put 16s on the bottom. And again, in this case, I'm subtracting. So this guy already has 16 pieces, and 3 out of the 16 are there. But this guy has an 8. So how do I go from 8 to 16? Well, I know it's 8 times 2. Okay, so I'm going to multiply by 2 to the denominator. I'm also going to multiply by 2 to the top. So this guy will now have a 6. Okay, and so now as you can see, we're going to subtract across. So the final answer is going to be 3 out of 16. And that's the answer for number 5. So this one is 3 out of 16 for number 5. Okay, 3 out of 16. For number 7. For number 7, we have 7 out of 10. Sophia, stop. Dang. 11 out of 20. We already know that the common multiple is going to be 20. Okay, this one already had 11 pieces out of 20. This one times 2 times 2. So this will be 14. Okay, so the final answer for this one is going to be 3 out of 20. So as you can see, it's the same steps, but remember, I think what it is for a lot of people is that you have to do a good job of knowing your multiplication rules. So that's really, really, really important. Okay, so remember the answer for this one, which one was this one? Number 9, I think, and I said number 7. Yeah, number 9. For number 9, it's 3 out of 20. 3 out of 20. Okay, so I got to go back and do number 7. Okay, so for number 7, we have 2/3, and we're taking away 4/9. So I'm going to just kind of go through this. So 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 4, 3 times 5, 9 times 1 is 9, and then we'd have 18, 27, 36. So just as quick as I know those multiplication facts, that's where I need everyone to be before the class is over, if not sooner. So the common denominator has to be 9. Okay, so as you can see, we'll put a 9 on the bottom of both of these. This one already has 4 out of 9, so this guy does not change. Okay, he's already speaking the right language. This one we have to multiply by 3 because 3 times 3 is 9. I want a 9. And then also multiply the top. So this becomes 6/9. And then the final answer to this, if we subtract across, is 2/9. So number 7 is 2/9. So I hope we are understanding this pretty good now. So this one is 2 out of 9. Okay, and I like to always circle the answers for the teacher because, again, some of us write small, some of us write really big. I write big. So I like to circle them, or sometimes you can offset them. I hope that doesn't mess that up too much for you. All right, so now let's look at number 11. And number 13. So for number 11 and 13, we notice that we have basically whole pieces. So this is going to get a little interesting. Okay. So I have 5/8, and I'm adding to 5/8 2 whole pieces. Okay. So in this case, remember the rule still applies. We're going to put whole numbers over 1. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to write 5/8 plus 2/1. Okay, now as you can see, it just jumps right out at you. We have to get 8s to the bottom of each of these. So this guy already has an 8, so I'm going to put a 5 there. But the second fraction, we need to multiply by 8 to the bottom and 8 to the top. So this will become a 16. Okay, so just to be clear, 2/1, right, is 2. And so 16 divided by 8 is 2. So that's what I want you to see again. They're still equivalent. We just changed them so we get 8 in the denominator. So now I'm going to add across. So I'm still going to leave this 8 on the bottom. Now in this case, we're going to get an improper fraction because I'm going to do 5 plus 16, and 5 plus 16 is 21. So this is improper. We don't like that. So remember, we have to do that top in, bottom out. The thing I told you is called T-bow. So the top number, the numerator, is going to go, we want to change this into a mixed number. This top number is going to go inside the division house. The 8 is my bottom number, and it's going to go outside the division house. Okay? And so now we have to ask ourselves, how many times or how many sets of 8 can go into 21? Well, I know that, 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 3 is 24, so it can only go in there 2 times. So I'm going to put a 2 right here over the 1, okay? 8 times 2 is 16, and then I'm subtracting, okay? And now I'm going to subtract, but I can't take 6 away from 1, so I have to borrow, okay? And then this guy will become 11. Okay, so let me make say a couple of really quick things. So the division cycle, I have these little acronyms for everything. So T-bow is top in, bottom out. So let me make these 2 really quick comments. This is really important. So 2 things. When you have a improper fraction, okay, so that's what this T-I-B-O stands for, right? It means the top number is going to go inside, so you can do your division, and the bottom number needs to go outside. So basically, in order to change, and let's just make a note real quick. In order to change, move over. In order to change an improper fraction to a mixed number, you have to do division. Okay? So if you're not understanding what I'm saying, this Tebow, why is she saying that? I'm just saying that because this is improper, I have to change it to a mixed number so it looks a lot more cleaner and more proper. You have to do division. Now, to remember the division cycle, I'm going to go ahead and write this down. It's, does McDonald's sell burgers? So DMSB. Okay, so that means, of course, we're going to divide, then we're going to multiply, and then we're going to subtract our numbers. And after we do our subtraction to get our remainder, if there's anything to bring down, then we bring it down. Okay, so let's walk through this real quick. So one more time, we got an improper fraction. We want to change to a mixed number, so we have to do our division. So that Tebow is what sets up our division, and then I'm going through my division cycle. So you start this way, you bring down, and then you start again. So it's a cycle. Okay, so again, 8 goes into 21. I said 2 times. Now I'm multiplying. So that takes care of the m. 8 times 2 is 16. Now I'm subtracting. So when I'm subtracting, in this case, I'm going to get 5 because I borrowed, right? And when you ask someone next to you for money, they always give you 10. They always give you 10 because the place value right over to the left of you is 10 times bigger. So if this is the ones place and this is the tens place, I'm borrowing, it becomes a 1. I'm adding 10 to this 1 to get 11. So 11 minus 6 is 5. And in this case, see, there's nothing else to bring down. And then I told you we tell time like a clock to get our mixed number. So the final answer to this is going to be 2 and 5/8. 2 and 5/8, which is kind of funny, right? Because if you go back to the original problem, we have 2 whole shaded pieces, 2 real whole shaded pieces, and 5/8, yeah, 2 5/8. And that's what we got, okay? All right, let's go to number 13. But real quick on our worksheet, let's transfer our answer. So for number 11, we should have got 2 and 5/8. And then again, I know my circling isn't the best, but there it is. All right, so now let's look at number 13. Well, for number 13, we're subtracting. So we're going to do 1 minus 5/8. Okay, so this is going to seem kind of strange. But remember, whole numbers, put them over 1. So the first thing, we're going to put 1 over 1 minus 5 over 8. And our common denominator is going to be 8. Okay, so we're going to put 8s over both of our division lines. This one's going to stay as a 5, but this one we have to multiply by 8. What do we do to the bottom? Do to the top. And again, 8 divided by 8 is the same as 1. Okay, now we're going to subtract across. Leave our 8 there, and 8 minus 5 is 3. So the final answer for number 13 is going to be 3/8. Okay, 3/8 and circle. All right, good deal. Okay, so I'm going to I think I'm going to leave these for you guys to do, like all the evens, just to kind of make sure you practice quite a bit. So let me do number 15, 17, and 19. All right, so for number 15, we have 1/2. We have 1/2. We're adding 1/4 to it. We're adding 1/8. So as you can see, we have 3 different fraction pieces here, and they all have different denominators. So we start thinking about the 2s, the 4s, the 8s, and we start listing our multiplication facts. So 2 times 1, 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4, 4 times 1, 4 times 2, 4 times 3, 4 times 4, 8 times 1, 8 times 2, 8 times 3, and then 8 times 4. So we're looking for all 3 of them to match, right? So what is the number we see in all of them? Well, the least number we see is 8. So our common denominator, to speak the same language for all 3 of these, is going to be 8. Okay, so I'm going to just nudge over a little bit. And so we're going to put 8s at the bottom of each one of these fractions. And for this fraction, we want to go from a 2 to an 8. So I have to multiply by 4 to the bottom of this one to the top of this one. So this becomes 4/8. This one has a 4. I want to go to an 8. So 4 times 2 is 8. So times 2 times 2. Notice again that I'm not putting stuff over on the left side. I'm sorry, on the right side. Put it over on the left side and put your dot so everything stays nice and neat, okay? So we're going to put a 2, and this one already has an 8, so we're going to leave that as a 1. So the final answer to this one, we're just going to add a cross. Just going to put my final answer. So 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So 7/8 is the answer for number 15. 7 out of 8. So it should be getting a little easy. Practice makes perfect. And you guys have a 3-day weekend. So I really want you to work at this, okay? So let's look at 2 more. Number 17. Move my paper. For number 17, we have 3/4. We're adding, oh, I'm so sorry. We're subtracting. Be really careful with those symbols. 1/2. And then we have 3/5. Okay? So in this case, we want to look for our multiples of the 4 family, the 2 family, and the 5 family. So 4 times 1, 4 times 2, then 12, then 16, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You can add one more, 12. Then I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay, and I'm just going to scan. I can do one more here, 20. All right, so as you can see, is there anything that's in common? Well, you know, these two guys have a 20, so that's looking pretty promising. These two guys have a 10, but remember, we need all 3 to match, right? So I'm going to just tell you that as you keep going in the 2 family, you will get a 20. Okay, so the multiple here is going to be 20. So now for this one, we're going to write 20s on the bottom of all 3 of our fractions. But remember to put a minus. Be careful there. I made that little blunder. A plus there. And then here 20. Okay, so now we're asking ourselves, how do I go from 4 to 20? Well, then that means I'm going to multiply by 5 to the bottom and top of this fraction. So times 5. Times 5. So this is going to get a 15. Right here, I want to times 10 to the bottom and top of this one because I want to get a 20. So times 10 times 10. So this is going to become a 10. And then this one, 5 to 20, I got to multiply by 4 to the bottom and the top. So times 4 times 4. So this is going to become 12. All right. So now to get our final answer, remember, do it from left to right. So 15 minus 10 is going to be 5, right? Remember, let me stop a second, put the 20. And then this is going to be 5, but then 5 plus 12 is 17. So the final answer to number 17 is going to be 17 over 20. 17 over 20. Okay? And that's the final answer. Sorry, I'm switching papers here. 17 over 20 for number 17. Okay, and the very last one, which is number 19, we're going to look at this 30 and 45. So let's do this very last one. So I have 13 over 30, adding 8 over 45. And so for this one, we have to figure out what's their common multiple. So of course, this one, just keep adding the same number. So we got 30, then we would have 60. We add 30, we get 90. We add 30, we get 120. 45 times 1 is 45. You add 45, you would get 90, and there's your moneymaker right there. So 90 is going to be our common multiple. Okay, so now if we move over, we're going to put 90 on the bottom in the denominator, and again, we're adding. We be really careful with our signs. Okay, so I know that 30 times 3 is going to give me 90, so I'm going to times 3 here, times 3 to the top. So 13 times 3, you just do your scratch work. This is 39. No mental math, okay? 45 to go to 90 is going to be 45 times 2. So times 2 to the bottom, times 2 to the top. So now I get 16 over 90. Okay, so my final answer here is to leave the 90 on the bottom, but now just to do some scratch work, I'm going to do 39 plus 16. Okay, this is going to be 15. Carry the 1, 3, 4, 5. So now I have 55 over 90. But again, because these two numbers, one ends in 5 and one ends in 0, we're going to divide both of those by 5. So here's your answer. So if I divide this one by 5, I would get 11. And then I'm not quite sure how many times does 5 go into 90, so I'm going to do some scratch work for the denominator. So I know that 55 divided by 5 is 11, but I'm going to come over here because I'm doing scratch work, and I'm going to do 90 divided by 5. So I'm going to have 90 being divided by 5, and then remember, it's that DMSB. So we're going to divide